Today we're going to be talking about the EGR valve and cooler of a 6.6 Duramax, but keep in mind, even though we're talking about a 6.6 Duramax today, this is going to go hand in hand and have the same conversation piece when we're talking about a Power Stroke, a Duramax, a Cummins, any application that's going to have an EGR valve and cooler attached to it. And the reason we're talking about that today is we want to show a good example of what happens when a misdiagnosis happens on an EGR cooler or valve. Now in this example, we had a 6.6 Duramax where the EGR cooler was diagnosed as being clogged, so the EGR cooler was replaced. Now, this cooler only has a couple of thousand miles on it as it sits, and you can see the buildup inside of this cooler is already quite substantial. And it's on both ends, so it's going through and through. Now, the reason for this is because when this was replaced, the EGR valve was overlooked. Now, unfortunately, the EGR valve was removed at the time, but it wasn't on the ticket, so it didn't get done. It wasn't part of the diagnosis, nor was it part of the repair. If we look at the EGR valve, we can see there is a substantial amount of buildup and soot inside of this EGR valve that when we replaced the cooler at the same time, putting this old EGR valve back in, we pretty much immediately started introducing this same buildup into the new EGR cooler, causing problems pretty quickly and causing this cooler to prematurely fail. One of the things you also want to keep in mind with the EGR valve is, whether or not this actuates and performs its job properly is how clean it is and how easily it can do its job. Obviously, this much soot and buildup is not going to make it easy for the EGR valve to do its job. And when the EGR valve is struggling, it also causes the cooler to struggle, which causes an entire problem throughout the EGR system. So the point of showing you both of these components is this. If we're going to replace an EGR cooler, or if we're going to replace an EGR valve, they should be done together. It should be a complete system. One, because again, what goes through the EGR valve is going to eventually go through the cooler. So we want to get those cleaned and put on new at the same time. But at the same time also, if we're going to take this off, we've got to take the EGR valve off at the same time anyway. Let's get that done in the same R&R and keep things simple. And hopefully now you have a better understanding of why it's important to replace the EGR valve and cooler at the same time.